Welcome to Joy for the Journey, the podcast where we explore the winding paths of purpose, faith, and joy. I'm your host, Joy, and I'm thrilled to embark on this transformative journey with you. Are you a woman seeking more than just existence and a soul yearning for fulfillment, purpose, and unwavering joy? Well, you're not alone. In this sacred space, we'll navigate the highs and lows, the doubts and triumphs, and the divine whispers guiding us toward our true calling. Through candid conversations, inspiring stories, and practical insights, Joy for the Journey is your compass, your confidant, and your catalyst for embracing the abundant life God intends for you. So if you're ready to reclaim your joy, renew your hope, and rediscover the woman God created you to be, join me on this adventure. Let's walk together step by step towards a life filled with purpose, passion, and unbridled joy. This is Joy for the Journey. Welcome aboard. Hey, it's Joy Jackson here, and welcome to Joy for the Journey. I say it all the time, and I'm going to say it again. I am so grateful that you are taking this journey with me. I'm grateful that you are listening to these episodes, that you are sharing them with other people, and that I hope that it is challenging you and that it is encouraging you to look at yourself differently, encouraging you to see God in a different way, and ultimately encouraging you to truly find joy in the journey. I realize that the journey is not always happy, but my hope and my prayer is that you always have joy, because that's something that is deep inside of you, rooted and grounded in the Word of God and what we believe. And so you should always have joy, even in the challenging circumstances. And I'm excited to share this podcast platform with you, share my struggles, share my victories, share my fears, share my defeats, and share my journey with you, because I always want to make sure that I am living in my truth and being honest with who I am and with what God is dealing with me on. And last week we started a series on Overwhelm. It was a rough week last week, y'all. And I'll be honest with you, I'm better, but my circumstances haven't changed much. And I'm now unpacking why that is and what has been causing me to really feel overwhelmed. What challenges am I facing? What frustrations am I having? And then ultimately, what am I doing to myself? What am I doing? How do I keep winding up in this overwhelmed space? I will say that this is a better week. And I'll tell you some small changes I made. One of the first changes I made was I started getting up again at 5:30. I used to always get up at 5:30 to pray and to spend time with God. And I've gotten back to that. Ooh, you talk about a peaceful day. When you really start your day with God in uninterrupted time, and I'm not talking about you getting dressed, brushing your teeth, doing your hair, putting on your makeup, getting dressed, getting your coffee, getting in the car, and then talking to God. I'm saying when you really find that space where it's just you and God in the quiet, oh, He reveals so much. Oh, He shares so much. Oh, He shows you how much He loves you. And I just have been embracing being in His presence for real. So that has really been that has been one of the major reasons why I am not feeling the stress of overwhelm. It doesn't mean that I'm not overwhelmed, but I'm not feeling the stress of overwhelm anymore because I've changed my focus and my priorities. So if you want to know the first rule of overwhelm, we got a lot we're going to talk about, boundary setting and all these things, but ultimately getting back to God, because God said, cast your cares on Him because He cares for you. His yoke is easy and His burden is light. So we're carrying these burdens and all of these things when we could just give it to God. And then we could learn how to just trust Him with it, because He knows what's best and He's going to do what's best. And then He will help us prioritize. He will help us identify what's important. He will help us identify the tasks that we need to complete. So that's really probably why most of us are overwhelmed. But that's just my little sermonette. What I really want to talk about today is something that I know I struggle with. I'm sure you may know somebody who struggles with it, even if it's not you. This is my biggest Achilles heel just in my everyday life, and that is perfectionism. I said it. And if you tell Stephen I said this, we won't be friends anymore. But when Stephen and I disagree, he goes back to that and says, you're not perfect. You're always trying to be perfect. And although that hurts and stings, he's absolutely right. I am trying to be perfect, and I'm realizing why. And I'm realizing that it's not a healthy mindset. I'm realizing that whole 80-20, it's okay to do 80%. That's not okay with me. And I'm trying to figure out why. And so I've unpacked it. I've sat with it. I've been asking God to reveal it to me. And I want to share it with you. And I hope that if you are someone who struggles with perfectionism, or you're someone who knows someone who struggles with perfectionism, this will bless you. So Here we go talking about perfectionism. One of the things that you must understand about perfectionism is it's the constant overwhelming, look at that definition right there, right? The constant overwhelming drive to achieve flawlessness. Just think about that. It is an overwhelming, I'm going to even add in the word all-consuming drive to achieve flawlessness, meaning everything has to be in line. Everything has to be done in order. Everything has to look pristine. Everything has to seem that way. Everything, and it's a facade. And often when we think about perfectionism, it's really tied to fear. Fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of inadequacy, fear of not being good enough. And so we push ourselves in so many ways, chasing so many things so that the mistakes and the errors and the out of place things don't look that bad. And it's unhealthy. And it really stems from not feeling good enough. It'll push you to do too much. It'll push you to be overly critical. It'll push you to avoid stuff. It'll push you to never thinking that you have arrived. And if I'm being honest with myself, even with this business, even as a mother, even as a child of God, even as a wife, I am so busy trying to get it all right. And see, we'll mask it, right? We'll say, we won't call it perfectionism. We'll call it getting it all right. We'll call getting it all done. We'll call being the best wife, being the best mother. We'll call it all of those things. But if the mindset behind why we're doing it is inadequacy or failure or judgment, then it's still a form of perfectionism and it's still unhealthy. That's the truth. And so I struggle with it because I've been trying to figure out the source of it. And I'll tell you, one of the things that my mom did when I was growing up, she talked to me a lot about, I can do anything. I can do anything. I can be anything. I am great. I am fantastic. These are the words that I was saying that became a part of my everyday vocabulary, even as a young person. I could do anything. I can be anything. I'm great. I'm fantastic. I'm marvelous. And she was, even in the early 80s, she was depositing affirmations in me that I could be, do, have, all of the amazing things. And so I've grown up believing that. I've grown up believing that I can do anything. I've grown up believing that I am successful at everything. I've grown up believing that I am fantastic and that I am amazing. But in growing up believing that, imagine what happened the first time I didn't get something right. Lost it. Or the first time that I didn't get a good grade, lost it. Because those words had been a part of who I was, which are great words, dynamic words. But I never really faced the opposite until I got in the real world, or until I left the care of my mother. And then I started to understand and see, well, wait a minute. Yeah, I can do everything, but I got to work for it. Or yes, I can have anything I want, but I got to till the soil. Or yes, I'm fantastic. Yes, I'm brilliant. But today I'm struggling in math. Or yes, I'm fantastic. But you know what? Today I don't feel that way. And so I'm very mindful even now as we talk about affirmations in this world, that those are great ways to build us up. But if we don't have the balance of the other side, the unfortunate part is, guess what? We don't know what failure is. We don't know what judgment is. We don't know what inadequacy is. And we find ourselves paralyzed when that happens. Now, don't get me wrong. This perfectionist attitude has come at my own. It was not something that was deposited in me. My mother did not punish me because I didn't do well. By the grace of God, I've done really well academically and socially and verbally and interpersonally and all of that. But it was just me always measuring myself up to another standard. So what's more? What can you do better? What can you do greater? And the more and more I did that, the more and more I never really measured up. And then I'm going to say this, and this is probably not what some believers will say, but I'll say it. And then sometimes I am trying to live my life Christ-like. And Lord, I don't measure up. And so even my desire to walk circumspectly and upright and righteous, sometimes I feel like a failure, y'all. Sometimes I feel like, Lord, I ain't got none of this right. I don't know why you keep using me, because I'm a mess. And so there are so many ways that we are comparing ourselves. And I believe perfectionism is a form of comparison in many ways, because we're comparing ourselves to either a standard, to a person, to a thought, to an idea, to an idol, to an image that is causing us to really think that we're not good enough. And so perfectionism is a cycle that we create to keep doing more, to achieving more so that we feel successful, so that we feel enough, so that we feel appreciated, so that we feel loved, so that we feel motivated, so that we feel accomplished, whatever that feeling is, we allow the desire to make it look good and everything be in its proper place. Real simple. My girls were getting their hair done a couple months ago by this lady. And you know this new thing, everybody's using edge control. And one of the things she said was their children, their braids are going to get out of place. Their hair is going to start to come out of it. It's going to start to look old. Their edges are going to come up. But I don't recommend edge control for children because first and foremost, it'll begin to take their hair out if you keep brushing it too much. But then secondly, they're children. So I'll say that to you. Yeah, it looks good right now, but it's going to get messy at some point. It's going to get out of place at some point. Some things are going to stick out. Some things are not going to be where they need to be. Even some of the things that you think you have straight are going to start to come up eventually. But instead of trying to make it look better and push it back down, just embrace the messy. Because even in the mess, you can get some things done. Even in the mess, you can still have joy. And when trying to clean up the messes and trying to look perfect are beginning to rob you of your joy and your peace, it's time to stop, friend. And so really quickly, how do you know you struggle with perfectionism? These are me. Okay, I'm going to tell you me. The first way that I knew I struggled with perfectionism is because I procrastinate. Now that sounds really interesting because now, procrastination has been tied to neurodivergent minds. It's also been tied to, some other like ADHD and all these other kind of things. But when you really think about procrastination, the reason that I procrastinate is because I'm afraid of doing it imperfectly. That's it. So I procrastinate because if it's not going to be done perfectly, if it's not going to be done exactly as it needs to be done, I will put it off. A, until I have time to do it at that level, or B, just trying to put it off and avoid it altogether because I don't want to make any mistakes. So I'll wait, I'll delay, or I won't do it until I can do it perfectly. And I'm doing this out of fear because I'm afraid I won't meet any standards. I'm afraid I won't meet my standards of others. So I just won't do it. And then I say, I do my best work at the last minute. Well, here's the truth. That's the only work I can do at the last minute, right? Because that's the last minute. But because I'm afraid of being imperfect, I will procrastinate. And I'll put it off and put it off and put it off. I'll delay it almost to the degree that I hope it never comes back up. Don't judge me. But when I'm really thinking about procrastination and I'm really thinking about overwhelm, think about it. They all lead to each other. So if I'm struggling with being perfect and then I put off whatever I need to get done to later, then the time that it's time to do it, I now feel stress and anxiety because I'm overwhelmed. So procrastination could be a sign that you are working on perfection. Now, some of us procrastinate for other reasons, but if you're procrastinating because you're like, I can't do it now because I don't have enough time to make it this way. The forest for the trees, that kind of idea. So one of the reasons that I know I struggle is because I tend to procrastinate because I'm afraid to make mistakes. And if I'm not going to be able to give it 110% and dot every I and cross every T to avoid the mistakes, to avoid the imperfections, then I'm not going to do it right away. Another way, this is another one. And it's funny when I tell you, I don't like new challenges because I'm afraid that I won't be good at it. If you've watched my TEDx, you've heard me talk about facing fears at 10,000 feet, talking about starting speaking with Joye and the lessons I learned along the way. When I was talking about it, I said that I don't like change, that I call myself a safety sergeant and a comfort queen. And although it was like, aha, that's cute, that's funny, that's really a problem because it's caused me to avoid doing new things. Because instead of embracing the new things, I'm afraid that I won't get it right at the start. I'm afraid that I won't start it and it won't look right. Oh man, okay, here's a super confession. Y'all ready? I am not going back to the gym because I'm not where I used to be when I was in the gym on a regular basis. And so because I got to go in the gym, and I got to start, not really from scratch because I have muscle memory, but I got to go back to breathing heavy again and lifting smaller weights and lighter weights. That is discouraging for me. So there's perfectionism in and of itself. And so because I'm avoiding new challenges, I don't take risks. I don't try new things because I don't want to fail or I don't want to look incompetent. Y'all might have seen a post where I said I went skating. It took me a long time to get back on the skates or even to get comfortable going back skating. Because I'm like, what if I fall? What if I look crazy skating? Because I used to be able to skate. And so all of these reasons have caused me to stay in the same spot. And because I've stayed in the same spot, I haven't grown, I haven't matured, and not necessarily matured, I haven't gotten any better in some areas. And so then I'm frustrated and overwhelmed because there are things that I want to do and there are opportunities that I'm missing because I'm afraid to get out of my comfort zone. So I have all these ideas, even for my business, that I struggle with doing because what if they don't look right? What if they're not perfect? And I've been told so many times, good enough is better than perfect. But try to tell that to someone who struggles with perfectionism. It's like Charlie Brown's teacher, blah, blah, blah. We don't hear that. So in reality, I have to now tell myself, Joy, you are doing a great job. Joy, you deserve to take this opportunity and this new challenge, and you should try it so that you can see how it goes. And if you fail, failure is a part of the process. I know, easier said than done, but that's really the mindset that I have to have. So these are the real reasons why I know I'm overwhelmed and I struggle with perfectionism. One that I don't really struggle with, but I know, and I have a lot of clients who do, is being highly critical of yourself. No matter how well you perform, no matter how good you do, you're always focused on what could have been better or what you did wrong. So rather than pat yourself on the back right out of the gate and say, girl, you did good, you're like, oh, I should have done this. Oh, I should have done that. Oh, I should have taken care of this. And so you spend a lot of your time struggling with critiquing yourself. And here's the thing, it's nothing wrong with critiquing yourself. There's nothing wrong with playing back a thought or a memory or an event or an action or a recording like this in your head or actually audibly and saying, oh, I could have done some things differently. But when you stay in the critical part of yourself where you can never receive praise and you also beat yourself up over small mistakes, then that's when you know you're struggling with perfectionism. And so you tend to judge yourself. I have a client right now who says, I am so hard on myself, but I give so many other people grace. And so what happens is she began to work later. She began to spend more time in the office. She began to do things so that she felt like she was good enough and felt like people would praise her and felt like people would applaud her, but she never felt like it for herself. So it was hard for her to clap for herself or hard for her to understand herself because she spent so much time saying, I'm not good enough. I've made mistakes and these mistakes are going to cost me. So when you're really overly critical of yourself, sometimes you may also set unrealistic expectations for yourself. So you have some unrealistic expectations and goals that are nearly impossible for you to achieve, whether it's in your work, whether it's in your relationships, whether it's on projects, whether it's at your job, whether it's as a parent, whether it's as a wife, whether it's as a sister, niece, whatever it is, you have these standards for yourself that you will never reach. I always joke about the fact that I think as much as we love the Cosby Show, they gave us a very false sense of what marriage was, which, I mean, we needed it back then, to the point where everything was solved in 30 minutes. Cliff and Claire always had the moment at the end where he would bring in cakes or music would play, candy, all that. And that made us feel like that's what it was. But that was a perfect scenario, idealistic kind of situation. And if we're not careful, we will start to believe the narrative that perfection is where it is. Social media has been one of the worst things that has caused us to think that we need to be perfect. I tell y'all, these filters, they make you look really nice, but it's not the truth of who you are. And I was blessed. Sunday, I had a lady walk up to me and say, oh my gosh, I love your post. I love when you come on live. And I love that you don't wear any makeup, that you're just yourself. And y'all don't understand how hard it's been for me to tell myself that it's okay to show up on social media without makeup on and without a filter. Like truly just to let y'all see this gray hair, the blemishes in my face, all of those things. You have no idea how that has been a struggle because I've looked at folks' social media and their eyebrows are drawn in and their faces be and their hair is where it is. And I don't just have the energy for it, honestly. So I find myself just comparing myself and saying, okay, Joy, you're going to have to do better. But then I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to be who I am. And that's what I do. And so what I want to challenge you with as we talk about being overwhelmed is identify if perfectionism is something that you really struggle with. And if you do, identify the source of it. For me, it is letting people down, which brings me to a whole nother topic we'll talk about another time, which is people pleasing. So I find myself trying to be perfect for the people that I love and the people in my life and my clients and everyone, because I don't want to let anybody down. And if I'm really honest, I don't want people to not think of me in a positive light. Yeah, I don't. I want people to say good things about me. Now, not the healthiest reason, I know that, but it's the truth. And so daily I die to the flesh. Daily I ask God to help me. Daily I ask God to remove the idea and the thoughts of other people so that I can A, live for Him, but B, be at peace with myself. So that I don't have to kill myself to try to make people happy, but I can truly operate in the gifts that God has given me and do what I can do in the capacity that I can do it. And rest knowing that that is good enough. And rest knowing that if I don't get it all done and I don't achieve everything somebody wants from me, doesn't make me a bad person. It doesn't make me not able to handle my business. It's truly just the space where I just couldn't do it. Just in that moment, I couldn't do it. Or I overcommitted, another topic, and I've taken on too much. Or I didn't set good boundaries, another topic. But all of these are reasons why perfectionism can cause us to be overwhelmed, because we are taking on so much with a underlying issue that causes us to chase something that's not real so that other people or even ourselves feel like we are good enough. I hope that helps you. I challenge you, if this is you, to just begin to peel back the layers. First thing I said, like I said, if it's the struggle of good enough, go back to God, read His word. Remember that you are the head and not the tail. You are fearfully and wonderfully made. Remember that when He created you in His image, so you are good enough. If you're someone who wonders about people judging you, here's a way to release that. Nobody has it together. We're all struggling with something. And it may not be what you're struggling with. I may not struggle with that. You may not struggle with what I struggle with. But the truth is, we should not stand in judgment of anyone because we're all trying to figure it out. This is where grace comes in. This is where understanding and commitment and relationship and community comes in. So that the areas that you're weak and the areas that you don't have, someone can hold you up in that. And then if you're someone who truly struggles with not wanting to make a mistake because you're afraid you'll fail, failure is a part of life. I heard someone say, if you're going to fail, fail forward. So failure is going to teach you something. In fact, most of the greatest inventions and lessons are learned in failure, not in success. I'm not saying walk here and be like, ooh, child, I'm about to fail. But take failure as a lesson. Take failure as a new beginning. Take failure as an opportunity to start over. So that's it, ladies. I hope this helps you. If you're a perfectionist sister, we are on this journey together. But I believe by faith that we can release the bondage of perfectionism, because it's bondage. It is. It's a stronghold. And we've got to release that. So we've got to give that to God and say, God, I want to do the best work that I can. But Lord, help me not to be driven by perfectionism, because that's causing me to have stress and anxiety. That's causing me to take on too much, and it's causing me to be overwhelmed. So I speak against the bondage of perfectionism right now. And I believe by faith that if you struggle with inadequacy, or you struggle with judgment, or you struggle with feeling not good enough, that you are reminded and encouraged today that you are the precious daughter of the Lord Jesus Christ. And for that reason, you are good enough, you are beautiful enough, you are powerful enough, you are wise enough, you are amazing. And you don't have to be overwhelmed by perfectionism anymore, because now we're releasing it together. I'll talk to you soon. Welcome to Joy for the Journey, the podcast where we explore the winding paths of purpose, faith, and joy. I'm your host, Joy, and I'm thrilled to embark on this transformative journey with you. Are you a woman seeking more than just existence and a soul yearning for fulfillment, purpose, and unwavering joy? Well, you're not alone. In this sacred space, we'll navigate the highs and lows, the doubts and triumphs, and the divine whispers guiding us toward our true calling. Through candid conversations, inspiring stories, and practical insights, Joy for the Journey is your compass, your confidant, and your catalyst for embracing the abundant life God intends for you. So if you're ready to reclaim your joy, renew your hope, and rediscover the woman God created you to be, join me on this adventure. Let's walk together step by step towards a life filled with purpose, passion, and unbridled joy. This is Joy for the Journey. Welcome aboard.